I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm getting rid of 10 great games. Not the 2 games that you see in front of you. We'll talk about why these are here in a second, but I'm getting rid of 10 great games from my collection. These are games that I don't think a single one of these I've rated less than a 4. One of them actually, I think I did give a 3.5, but honestly, I think it should have gotten a 4 based on how much I enjoy it. But every single one of these games is amazing, and there are several 5 out of 5s in here that I'm getting rid of for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into. The reason these 2 games are here is this is the inspiration for this video. These are my 2 5 out of 5s this year. Currently, when I'm filming this, is 2025, and this is, it's currently July of 2025, and these are the first 2 games that I'm giving a 5 out of 5 in 2025. I love both these games. I cannot stop playing both these games. Every single time I have a chance to play games, I would like to play both these games. These are my current new obsessions. And that kind of made me want to go through some of the games in my collection. This happens. Every year this happens. Sometimes when I discover something new that I love, it inspires me to look at the rest of my games in my collection with a more critical eye of, I know I enjoy playing you, I know I think you're great, but ultimately, are you going to hit the table, or would I rather play other games, including these 2? And so Pirates of Maracaibo, Shackleton Base, I have reviews for both up on the channel. You can check those out. But those are the inspiration for this video. Those are the games that I've been playing that make me want to be a bit more critical about what stays in my collection, about what is fighting for table time at any given point. I will be going through my thoughts on all of these 10 games as I get rid of them right now, but I will say that all of these I think are great, fantastic games that I recommend with very minimal caveats to recommending them. I think they're great. I think they're amazing games. At any single point, everyone's going to have to juggle their game time, their willingness to keep games on the shelf that aren't being played, and make practical decisions. But I recommend all of these wholeheartedly with the caveat that, at least for me, I'm ready to pick other games that hit the table every game night. And so, starting off, and if you watch the regular Games Leaving the Collection video every month, this month there won't be a section for games leaving from my personal collection. There'll be the regular games passing through, but I've done all the soul searching I can on my collection to choose which games to get rid of right now, so it'll be a slightly shorter Games Leaving the Collection video this month. With that said, let's start off, and I am going through this in some degree of how hard, less hard to more hard as I go through it, but we're going to start off with Skyrockets. Skyrockets is the game that I gave a 3.5. Honestly, I think it should have gotten a 4. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's a real-time version of, I always forget, Kites. It's a real-time version of Kites. Well, Kites is real-time. It's a more advanced version of Kites, taking what Floodgate Games did with Kites and then giving us a better game. A game with a bunch of challenges, similar to things like The Crew, as you go through it, playing through different degrees of challenges. But ultimately, the goal is to manage these timers as you go. I think it's a lot of fun. The reason I was able to give this one a look and get rid of is I have a ton of filler games, an absolute ton of games that are in that 30 minutes or less range, and I think that I have a lot of fantastic games that frequently get picked over Skyrockets. When I have played Skyrockets, I have enjoyed it every single time, but I do find that it's not the one that gets picked the most as I'm going through what to play when I want that filler spot. And so for lack of getting enough playtime, Skyrockets is going to leave. Then we have 2 that I'm actually going to put hand in hand because I think these 2 kind of fill the same reason or niche as to what's going on here. We have Three Tail and Encounters. These ones suffer from 2 things. One is a direct comparison to one specific other game, and 2 is the fact that both of them are newer to me. And I do find that as I've played games, while I certainly can be a very much cult of the new person, both Shackleton Base and Pirates of Maracaibo are both new to me games that I am absolutely obsessed with. But I have found as well that I tend to be super obsessed with some new games, and then I tend to default and lean on older games. Very often, great new games that are solid 4s out of 5. Both these are 4s out of 5s. Good games that I really enjoy. I find more and more that 4 out of 5s in my collection that are new to me tend to be replaced, or I tend to play games that are 4.5s and 5s, or even if I'm playing a similar rating game, I default to the oldest games in my collection that I just have too much fun with and refuse to get rid of, although I'm getting rid of some older games today too. But these suffer from that to a small extent. Both are fantastic. Encounters is a kind of a little mini boss battler game where you're going to choose characters, try to face off against them as you confront these assortment of bosses and trying to power through surviving their attacks and powering yourself up so you can ultimately take them down. A very solid, very rewarding game. Three Tail is all about stat building. It's stat building the board game. You constantly are moving up your stats, growing them, prepping for the final encounter. I've had a lot of fun with both of these games and think they are excellent games you should check out. For me personally, I find that Slay the Spire is the game. Both the fact that these are newer but not like top, as well as having Slay the Spire in my collection. I find Slay the Spire fits both those niches for me. Both that aspect of facing off against a boss while managing your deck and powering up, while also constantly building up your stats. At the end of each encounter, you're getting stronger and more powerful, but in a more nuanced way, in a less obvious way. I've had a lot of fun with both of these, but again, my collection in general, but Slay the Spire in specific is going to be one of the games that makes it harder for me to justify keeping and playing these as much as I would, because most of the time when I want to play these, I default to playing Slay the Spire. Then we have another two over here. We have Tir na Nog and Framework, and these also suffer from being directly replaced by other games doing similar things. Tir na Nog is interesting. Tir na Nog is another 4 to 5, a great game. I've had a lot of fun with it. It's also on the side, but this one is one of those games where you're juggling a lot of different things in the game in terms of trying to optimize your score. You're basically building out 3 rows of cards, and each row is going to have a different scoring variability, giving you a way to score through the game. For me, I've had a lot of fun playing through this one and going through playing it again and again, because there is a lot of variability to the way you score. It gives it that replay value. But I do think that the card selection mechanism, while clever, overall, I find that I have so many games that are doing this vein of, hey, here's a bunch of ways to score points. Can you find the optimal way to score those points while trying to satisfy multiple scoring criteria? And then similar to games like Encounters and Three Tail, I find myself going back to my old favorites. I can't count the amount of times I have liked and enjoyed a game like this, kept it for 6 months, a year and a half, and then gotten rid of it only to say, well, I prefer Cascadia and I enjoy Cascadia more. And I almost feel bad at this point, and there's other games, not just Cascadia, but I do find Cascadia is frequently the bar that I compare these new types of games against, and while I always enjoy them and while I have them for a certain period of time, ultimately I default to going back to Cascadia, and I always do go back to Cascadia. Cascadia is the gift that keeps on giving. Others too. Calico is also great. I'd have to look through my shelves and see what others there are, but there are a bunch that do this kind of point scoring optimization. Tir na Nog is great. It's a good new addition to that genre, but ultimately it's being beaten out by the constant flood of new games in that genre, as well as the oldest, best games in that genre. Framework is suffering from a similar kind of concept. Framework is a series of games from Uwe Rosenberg. This one is, Framework is a series of games from Uwe Rosenberg, in which there's a bunch. I'm trying to remember the one that is, there's one about trees from Indie Boards and Cards that I can't remember the name of it, but that's probably my least favorite one. But then outside of that, there's Framework, I'm blanking on the names for these games, I can't remember what they are called. There are 3 main games in the series, plus the one from Indie Boards and Cards, that all follow the same general pathway. Why can't I not remember the names of these games? Framework, Nova Luna, and Sagani. Those are the 3 over there. The 4th one from Indie Boards and Cards, can't recall. But they all do the same general kind of puzzle of trying to chain together different things. You're chaining together tiles in different ways, trying to score certain criteria while also building new criteria as you go. You're constantly trying to take a tile that fulfills criteria and gives you ways to score. All 3 games do the same general concept, and I've liked all of them to different degrees. I think my order of preference was Nova Luna at the lowest. Well, the Indie Boards and Cards one is still fun, but the lowest, then Nova Luna, then Sagani, then Framework. Framework has been my favorite one so far. The reason Framework is finally going is because it's being replaced by a new one, and honestly, it's a little premature, so I'm not gonna say exactly which one it is. There is a new game coming out that might be my 3rd 5 out of 5 this year. I don't know. I need more plays. It's a little too early to say it, so I'm not saying. It'll likely come in at a 4.5 or a 5, depending, but it's doing what these games do differently and, in my opinion, better. Although sometimes it's just an issue of mixing things up. Sometimes it's just an issue of, I've enjoyed Framework. I've played this game dozens of times, and now maybe it's okay to try something new that does the same thing in a different way, which, again, I've done, and I like the new way that it's doing it, and it's the same kind of puzzle, not from Uwe Rosenberg this time, but we'll talk more about that in the future, I guess. Again, I don't want to name names, because if I say it's a 5 out of 5 now, and I say the name, that's almost a commitment, and it's not a 5 out of 5 yet. It's 5 out of 5 potential is what I would say. But that's going to be Framework. Framework is being replaced by another newer one in the genre as well. Then moving to the side of the table, we have 2, let's go with another, we're doing sets of 2, so let's continue doing sets of 2. We have Lords of Ragnarok as well as Cyberpunk over here. These are both 2 big box miniature games that both suffer from the same exact problem. This is once again my area control issue rearing its ugly head. I've talked about this extensively extensively might be a stretch. I've talked about this as I've talked about certain games leaving the collection, but there was a point in time where area control was my group's favorite genre and we played it the most. That is no longer the case, and it's now played much, much less than it used to. And that means that slowly but surely, a genre that I've built of games that I've thoroughly enjoyed and had a ton of fun with, I've started whittling down further and further to the absolute best of the best, the top 5 or so in that genre. And for context, off the top of my head, the top 5 are going to be things like Rurik, Blood Rage, Inis, Cyclades, DEI, Divided Impera. Am I missing anything? Did I say Inis, Rurik, Cyclades, dear lord, Cyclades, Inis, and Kemet? That's going to be those 3. Rurik, Blood Rage, Divided Impera. I feel like there's one more that I'm missing. There are a bunch. Even then, so it's not even the top 3 or 4. It's the top 6 or 7 or so. So I still have 6 or 7 that are my absolute favorite in the genre that have continued to stay strong, and I don't anticipate them going anywhere anytime soon. Even as I play Area Control less, those are just my absolute favorites and consistently deliver. But it does mean that a lot of the newer ones over the past several years, Fall of the Mountain King, Wonderland's War, Lords of Ragnarok, Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of the newer ones that are great games but aren't the same level as those top 7 or so, they have slowly but surely been going away as I realize that when I do pull out an Area Control game, I'm going to play Cyclades over playing Cyberpunk 2077. Both of these are great games. I've had a lot of fun with both of these. Cyberpunk 2077 in particular is, because the problem with Lords of Ragnarok I think is better than Cyberpunk 2077, but I think that I'd almost just rather play Blood Rage. Blood Rage is filling a very similar genre as far as how the games operate or the feel of the games, and so it's more directly comparable. Versus Cyberpunk 2077 has a lot more going on that makes for a more interesting gameplay, and even the sequence of the way you play through the stories gives you something more interesting to do compared to your typical Area Control game. But I do find that once again, I find myself defaulting to the favorites, to the absolute favorites. Cyclades Legendary is here, and while I have played Cyclades in the past year, I haven't played Cyclades Legendary since it's arrived, and so I'm not going to pull out and play these 2 until Cyclades Legendary is played, and I probably want to play that multiple times because it's so good of a game. And so these ultimately are once again joining that list of amazing Area Control games that I do enjoy and have had a lot of fun with, but I have to make room for the ones that are more likely to get tabled and the ones that I enjoy the absolute most. We're down to 3 games left over here, and I also should have Skyrocket somewhere on the table, why not? We're down to 3 games left over here, and let's start with Marrakesh. Marrakesh is great. It's one of Stefan Feld's better, newer games, and this one is honestly one of the inspirations for this video. When I played through Shackleton Base, I directly mentally thought of Marrakesh. No particular reason. They're both medium to heavy Euro games that give you a lot of gameplay in them. But for whatever reason, I was like, I love Marrakesh. Marrakesh is a 4.5 out of 5 for me, and I think it's a great game. But I'd rather play Shackleton Base. I'd rather play Pirates of Maracaibo. Pirates of Maracaibo is a little bit different. Shackleton Base, honestly, they're both a little different, but Shackleton Base is more of a direct Euro in terms of what it's doing, but Pirates of Maracaibo is almost adventure-y in the way you build yourself up. This is a fantastic game, but I'd still rather play, again, Shackleton Base as a newer, amazing Euro game. I'd rather play Sankoria if I'm looking for that level of in-depth chaining. Sankoria is honestly a pretty good comparison as well. If I'm looking for Stefan Feld, I'd still rather play, Bruges or Castle Burgundy or several others that are still my absolute favorites. Cusco for him, oh my gosh, Cusco is so good. Previously Bora Bora. There are so many incredible Stefan Feld games, and Marrakesh is absolutely one of them. But it is a slightly bigger experience, a slightly more overwhelming in terms of the amount of things you have to cover. That's part of why I thought of Shackleton Base, because it has a similar vibe as far as both Shackleton Base and Marrakesh come together pretty quickly when you're actually playing them, but there's a lot of moving parts to juggle and manage, and I think that I just feel more satisfied when I play Shackleton Base compared to Marrakesh. Marrakesh is great. I can't say this enough times in this video, but I recommend all of these games. These are fantastic games, and Marrakesh is as well. But ultimately, when I'm pulling something off the shelf, it's currently going to be one of those other games that I mentioned, and or other Euros. I have other Euros as well. Speaking of, well, no, I was going to save the other Euro for last. I was going to say speaking of the other Euros, and then go to my hardest one I'm getting rid of, but I'm going to go to my second hardest one I'm getting rid of, and this is Wild Descent. Now, Wild Descent is a tricky one, because Wild Descent has a lot of upset feelings around this game because of Lazy Squire Games being involved in Wild Descent. Not involved, it's their game. It's Wild Descent. They have Wild Descent Levon Rising. They have Storm Sunder. Both are games that we have no idea if we'll ever see, and I'm getting rid of Wild Descent knowing that I may never see this game again. I don't know. If it comes back, I plan on keeping it, don't get me wrong, but for right now, I'm getting rid of this version of the game. And that's part of it because I've played through this campaign twice. Well, two times and multiple bits. I've started the campaign several times as well, but I've played through the full campaign twice. I've enjoyed I've enjoyed Wild Descent enough. I've had a lot of fun with it. This is a 5 out of 5 game for me, and I stand by that rating. I understand that there's issues with Lazy Squire, but as far as my enjoyment of the game goes, I've enjoyed this game an absolute ton, and I've enjoyed Levon Rising, and I do hope that shows up one day because I think that's another new, fresh way to continue to go through what this game is doing. This game is always compared to Kingdom Death Monster Light, and I think it does deliver on that experience as far as giving you, 10 games, 10 linked scenarios, a sequence of encampment phases where you're trying to power up your characters, and you have to go through the challenge of capturing monsters versus killing monsters and balancing all of that. You feel more powerful as you go through it. I do not think the game shines after the first game or even the first 2 games because your characters need to start developing and building for you to really feel that sense of investment in them. But if you give this game 3, 4 games, I think at that point you will be very hooked and invested into the characters. I still recommend picking it up if you're able to do so. I do not recommend late pledging because that feels like it's much more of a risk of never seeing it. But if you can find a used copy somewhere, I recommend picking up Wild Descent. I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy the game, and I do recommend it. But I played through this twice and change. And I do think that, I hope that Levon Rising shows up one day. And if it does, I'd rather go through that. Part of what's made it challenging to go through this is both the mixed feelings around the Lazy Squire, as well as the sheer number of campaign games I have that I haven't played through even a full time, let alone twice. And for me, if I'm going to pull out a game that I already like and enjoy, I'll probably pull out Primal as well. So there's a lot of mixed feelings that go into why this one eventually is leaving, but I realize I haven't picked it off the shelf. I haven't pulled off the shelf to play a game in roughly 2 years. 2 years was probably the last time I started a new campaign. I didn't finish that one, but I started a new campaign around 2 years ago, got 2 more missions, got 2 more missions deep into it, and then just didn't play it for the next 2 years, which made me realize at this point that as much as I enjoy this game, even a 5 out of 5 doesn't necessarily stay forever. It just depends on what it's doing and how it gets played. And then the hardest one for me, and the hardest one for me right now, is this last one, which is a 5 out of 5, and it's Coimbra. Coimbra is fantastic. I've been raving about this game for years. I've used it as my gold standard of games for years. I've talked about this game excessively. I've compared other games. I've frequently said to myself, exactly the same way I'm getting rid of Amerigesh and saying I'd rather play Shackleton Base, Coimbra has frequently been that bar. In many videos and many times in conversations when I didn't keep a game, when I chose not to keep it, very often it's been, I'd rather play Coimbra. And that held true for a very, 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 very long time. This is a fantastic game that I thoroughly recommend. One of my favorite from these teams of designers, if not my favorite from these teams of designers, but I've played it enough at this point that I've realized that some of the charm of Discovery is gone. And I don't think that that's something that this isn't a game that gets expansions or new material for it, and it's been a long time enough. Like, if they come out with an expansion for Coimbra, not only will I get the expansion, I will get the base game back because I will want to explore that. But there hasn't been one for years at this point, and I think it's not likely that there will be one. And where the game currently stands, I've played through it enough that some of that charm of Discovery is gone. I've gone through the patterns, I've bought the various cards, I've leaned into the 4 different pillars and which one I'm going to go the highest on in terms of how I'm trying to invest and build up my cards, and it's still a very satisfying game. But right now, when I play games like Pirates of Maracaibo and Shackleton Base, I still have that sense of discovery. How can I best maximize? Which combination of corporations in Shackleton Base are going to lend themselves to a different challenge that I can enjoy and appreciate today? Coimbra has lost some of that magic only because I've played through the same game again and again and again, and I do think that there's variability and enjoyment to the experience. I do think there's player interactivity that will force you to approach how and what you buy differently. I love Coimbra. But at this point, it has gone down a little bit for me because I've seen it play out so many different ways, so many different times, and that sense of discovery is gone. And so for me, Coimbra is the hardest one over here, but it's one that I am finally reluctantly willing to let go of, which means, again, there's multiple 5 out of 5s for me that are leaving the collection today because I've discovered new games that are 5 out of 5s that are making me want to play those and explore those and find out more about those. Until one day, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, maybe they'll show up in a video on the opposing side of which games are coming in or going out. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. These are 10 amazing games that I thoroughly recommend that are unfortunately leaving today. And until next time, I hope you have a good one.